they might just look at the score and they would move on, even forgetting what have they kind of actually understood, and what, as a student, what do they need to go back and revise. And as a teacher, it's practically always been impossible for us to look at every student's gaps in knowledge and how are we then going to address that, meet that. And that's where sAInaptic stemmed.
Hello and welcome to the Test Community Network. I hope you're all safe and well. My name's Tim Burnett, here for another amazing episode of the Test Community Network update. And in this week, we have an amazing interview with Kavitha and Raj, and we're going to be talking about sAInaptic, their amazing AI-based marking and feedback tool. So we'll get into that interview in a minute. As ever, if you want to see anything that you've seen today on the show, then go to testcommunity.network. You can subscribe to the Test Community Network. You can do that for free. And each week you receive an amazing email through jam-packed full of amazing resources that you may have missed in your feeds and your social, but emails, newsletters, jobs, and I'm going to go through those in a second. Right, just to remind you, we have some excellent events lined up this week for myself. So we have today, we have a webinar, Superpowers in Research. I'm going to add that to this thing. I've got this new little button here. I'm going to press that. So that's today when you're watching this episode. So that's Thursday the 27th. I'm going to be unpacking all the amazing research tools. I'm going to be doing it within an assessment and testing and education context. So the kind of examples that I'll go through will be based on that. And a great surprise because this week OpenAI have released their deep research tool for people who are on the Pro, Plus subscription level, which is what I'm on, which is awesome. So it means I can test that out as well. But we're going to be looking at Perplexity. We'll have a little bit of a look at Grok. We'll also look at Google's deep research tool, and there's another one which brains has gone. Anyway, so we're going to be unpacking that, and we'll also be looking at agents that can go off and do research for you while you sleep. So that's coming up. And then we have also on Tuesday, I have three of the most amazing psychometricians that work within the space. We have Leslie, Amanda, and Liberty, and we're going to be looking at how you kind of ride the wave and avoiding the hype of AI within the assessment space, especially if you're coming up to conferences. So we're going to be kind of structured it around looking at the hype, the fear, and giving you a real strategy that you can take to an event. And when you're speaking with people who are providing assessment services, know what to ask them, but also stay grounded in the assessment principles, which are very important. So I'm really looking forward to that session. Right, and other webinars and events going on. Inspira, they have their March release webinar that's coming out on the 3rd. The E-Assessment Association have a SIG session looking at the EU AI Act and what you need to know. That's available on Eventbrite if you want to have a look at that. We have the ATP AI Future Learning Transferring Growth and Global Access event. There is also a survey, which I'll share that in a second. Estonia have announced a groundbreaking national initiative, AI Leap program, AI for all schools. So if you want to check that news item out, I'm showing less events today because there's a lot of physical in-person events, which is no good if you're watching this now and you can't really go anywhere. But there is some amazing stuff on the marketplace that I'm going to draw attention to. So this survey here by the ATP again is how AI is shaping the future of assessment. So I do recommend that people check that and have a look at it. Also, we've got some psychometrician jobs going. There's a few jobs that have been added on recently, so check those out. So we have that one was for the American Board of Pediatrics. They're looking for a psychometrician, and AQA are looking for a researcher. So if you want to go and work with AQA, then please do that. That would be awesome. Finally, I'm going to mention John Weiner has been writing some articles and posts, and this one about the automated future of testing. So he's got part 1 and part 2 on there. So they're on the marketplace. It's worth checking out. John's a great guy, fully knowledgeable side. So let's talk to the guys now from sAInaptic. I'm going to bring them onto stage, and here's my conversation with Raj and Kavitha. Welcome. Thank you for joining me, Kavitha, Raj. Thank you for coming on the podcast. So we start these off by just introducing yourselves and your organisation. We're going to kind of learn a bit more about the work that you're up to. So, Kavitha, do you want to go first? Just tell us a bit more about your background and where you come from. Then we'll kind of talk about the product after that. So, Kavitha, where?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Tim. So I'm Kavitha. Have been a teacher forever. So I started off in early years in India, taught for about 5 to 6 years. And when we moved to the UK, I trained to be a secondary science teacher, graduating from Cambridge, and that was in 2009. So since then, I worked across schools in Hertfordshire, teaching secondary science, and really focused on the teaching and learning side of what happens in the classroom, and have always been an enthusiast when it comes to digital technology, to looking out to see what is out there and how we can incorporate that in the lessons, and have held leadership positions with the same kind of aspect of how can we make the entire process of teaching and learning more effective and efficient, both from a teacher's point of view and from the students.
And that are very important things, aren't they? Because we want to make this process as effective as possible as we move through the stage. And Raj, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having us. And I've got a technical background. So back in 2004, I graduated as a bioengineer back in India. But again, like Kavitha, 2007, moved to the UK, went to Cambridge for a master's program in data science and computational biology, moved to Imperial College for a PhD. But through and through, sort of using mathematical modeling, artificial intelligence, when AI was not necessarily a household name, to solve issues, but in the clinical side of things. So before starting sAInaptic with Kavitha, I was at the London Ambulance Service using machine learning and natural language processing to see how we can derive insights from clinical notes that paramedics take when they go into a scene and so on. And back in, my first AI project was as part of my undergraduate studies, where I was trying to use deep neural networks to be able to classify vocal cord disorders without actually having to do any diagnostic imaging or anything, just based on recording of voice. So E, those kinds of sounds from patients. So yeah, I mean, been playing with AI for a very, very long time.
So it sounds like the perfect scenario, the perfect team here. So tell us a bit more, Kavitha. Tell us a bit more about sAInaptic. What is it, and what does it do, and what problem is it trying to solve, I suppose?
Absolutely. So, as we all know, as any other team, majority of the teachers, so it's really in the classroom, we love it. When you're in the classroom, you're delivering the teaching. That's really great, and that's why we're all there. But it is the marking, and it is analyzing the student answers and giving the feedback. That's the one that adds to the burden of teachers, adds to the workload of teachers. And it's just not, I think what is also frustrating is that despite spending, like I remember I used to spend hours during weekends and weekday evenings and half-term breaks and summer holidays marking. There's always some kind of a marking, right? It's either your lesson marking, end of topic marking, or your mock exam marking. So there's always marking to do, but then you are never giving that feedback to students in a right way, in the right time. So even though I would spend up to 3 hours marking a class set of 30 students assessment, I might write extensive feedback, but that's given to students, that's returned to students after 2 weeks from when they have written their assessment. So if you look at it from a teenager's point of view, they've forgotten what they've written. So they would skim through the feedback. They might just look at the score and they would move on, even forgetting what have they kind of actually understood, and what, as a student, what do they need to go back and revise. And as a teacher, it's practically always been impossible for us to look at every student's gaps in knowledge and how are we then going to address that, meet that. And that's where sAInaptic stemmed. Because Raj and I, we go back years back, and when we were in Cambridge, so we were friends, and clearly, with her tech background and with me, her seeing me marking hours and hours, we just had this conversation one evening, and Raj was like, maybe we could use tech to solve the problem that we have. Also, to add on to that, there is automation of marking, but that's limited only to MCQs. We don't have automation on free text responses, which is exactly what takes teachers more time to mark, to analyze, to look at the concepts that students have met and they have not. And that's what takes more time. And there's nothing out there yet. I mean, we were talking about like 4 years back when we started off, but there is still, nothing out there that can deliver that feedback at a high accuracy which teachers and students will effectively then use in lessons. But that's where it started off. We really wanted to offer something for teachers and students that would automate marking and feedback beyond MCQs. So that was the focus for us.
Okay, and so in terms of that kind of market audience, then is it schools based? Is it other kind of areas? Is it higher education? Where are you seeing the most kind of traction at the moment?
So we started off in the school sector, given that that's where we felt the gap from my own career. So that's where we started off, and we have a schools product. We also have a revision product aimed at GCSE science students, purely exam style questions. So that's where we started, and that product is adoption is going quite well in the schools market. But then, having given that, we have now moved beyond that to more the vocational qualifications, professional qualification sector, because quite interestingly, marking is a pain point, not only in the K-12 sector. It's something, that it's quite interesting for us to also see, because when we were researching into that market, we were not sure. And it was reassuring for us as founders to know that pain point and the lost time, cost, the accuracy of marking, the efficiency of process. So all of that is significant in the market beyond the K-12. So that's what we are in now. And so that's a really interesting market that we have tapped into.
Yeah, and I think it's one that's kind of ignored, isn't it, in some ways in this area? Because if it'd be just automated results, maybe, or scores or grades that come through, and that's it. There's no feedback. There's nothing to learn from that process. So, Raj, tell us a bit more about the kind of technology side of things. What is the AI that you're using, or tell us a bit more about the kind of background to the product.
Yeah, so I think where we differentiate ourselves is basically having this hybrid model where we're leveraging language models to provide that language understanding, but then using more algorithmic approaches to actually do the marking and provide the feedback. So, our approach makes the tool quite cost effective as well, but also very, very reliable in terms of marking. At recent comparative study by one of our clients actually suggests that our marking is less than 1% deviation from human assessors for the assessments that we've automated the marking of for those guys. So yeah, I think our USP really is the cost effectiveness and the extremely high accuracy, and that is super important, right? Especially in the sector that we are now sort of growing in, where there is actually a dearth of that instant feedback that Kavitha just spoke about. So especially when applied as a formative tool, you do not have to, for example, apprentices don't have to wait until their tutor time. They are getting that regular, instant and timely feedback beyond what the tutors are able to do at the moment. And so that's hopefully going to be very, very crucial, which, hopefully we'll be able to measure and provide evidence of in the coming sort of months and years, that is contributing hugely to achievement rates. I think that's kind of one of the visions that now we are working towards as well. But yeah, just in terms of technology and how we work with awarding bodies, we work with training providers, certification bodies, and so on. Our algorithm is trained particularly on client assessment data, and that's why we're able to achieve these high accuracy rates. And so, we work very, very closely with the clients to firstly make their data AI ready, because very often, of course, training providers and awarding bodies have huge amounts of data, but it's often not necessarily in an AI / digitally ready format. So we work closely with them to make that data accessible so that it can be fed into the model, trained to mark at the accuracy at which, hopefully will match with the assessors. We train the model with questions, mark schemes. If they've got, their own content, so we take that into account as well, so that we're providing more context to the model within which to mark. And if we also have marked student responses, then that's brilliant. But again, often just historically the way the education sector has been, it's always been pen and paper and so on. So there's sometimes we don't get enough data. But again, I think that's another sort of advantage of our model. We don't necessarily need thousands or hundreds of thousands of data points. We're able to get to the accuracy levels that we're talking about with just a few tens of sample data. So that's a little bit about, I hope that sort of gave a little bit about how we work and the tech that we've developed.
No, that's good. And in terms of, I suppose, the future projection of the large language models and the technology that's out there, I'm kind of interested, do you find that you're going to continue to ride off the wave of all the releases that are coming out from the large platforms, or do you think you've kind of you're at a point where you've got enough technology to use in that way, and obviously your own technology as well, but where do you see that going in terms of upcoming releases, the vision and those kind of capabilities that are coming out from language models?
We are quite excited about generative AI and large language models, and especially image processing capabilities as well, because that's improving quite fast, as you rightly said. So we definitely want to leverage that. I mean, there's no point in developing sort of new technology when you have existing ones. So one of the sort of use cases that we are looking to develop is using generative AI to be able to assess multimodal submissions of, for example, apprenticeship. It's very readily, the use case is quite apparent when it comes to apprenticeships, where they're submitting multimodal e-portfolio submissions. But again, they've got to wait for tutor time until they can get some feedback. They're still struggling to figure out if their submissions are of high enough quality to pass for gateway. Have they aligned with the standards and the learning goals that they are working towards, and so on. So some of those things, of course, our proprietary model does that, but definitely I think we want to be able to leverage Gen AI and sort of these other newer technologies to be able to work with images and videos. So that's, it's kind of the trajectory of where our product is going.
Nice,
excellent. Lucky to have some, early adopters who understand that this is all, new, and you still need to test some of the waters. So it's super exciting to see that as well, because obviously I think we all know that AI for high stakes assessments, especially, you've got to be under the off-call regulations. So we've got to make sure that we're ticking all of those boxes, but at the same time, not necessarily stifling innovation and, finding those right partners to work with. That's been super exciting.
I must admit, my time, because I teach apprentices, and I only have a small cohort, of 1 or 2 students really at any one time. And because they're in different employment settings, it's very hard to, it's not just I'm setting one piece of work that I've that's standard across 30 odd students. It's very different takes, very personalized takes on things. So having this kind of technology to, like say, multimodally process that is fantastic. So where are you on your kind of your I suppose your company journey? You're in terms of funding, stuff like that. What's your kind of situation there, Raj?
It's funny you asked that. So we're just about opening a funding round. We've seen very immense growth sort of in the last few months. We've onboarded some very reputed names who work globally in professional qualifications. So we really want to double down on what we've seen work for us. In fact, we're in a very good problem to have where we're signing contracts, and so we need to now expand our team. So it's a good time to go and raise money to be able to then expand both the technical team, but also double down on sales and so on. Hopefully with the fundraise, we'll be able to sort of grow the professional, vocational, apprenticeship, that side of the business. So basically, sAInaptic Enterprise is what we call it. I think it's super exciting. And like I said, it's not just the marking and the feedback. I mean, we feel like what we're doing for some of the training providers and awarding organizations is beyond, just what they are signing up for. Like, it's also helping them to go through this digital transformation, helping them to standardize their assessments. Often, so many inconsistencies come out because of the fact that we are working with their assessors to, perhaps come up with the best marking template and, marking scheme and so on. So it's really this whole end-to-end process, which also, I mean, maybe that's a secret sauce, but, giving away a secret sauce, but that's something, the awarding bodies really appreciate on how, we closely work with them. So very, very, looking forward to the next sort of couple of years, really.
Yeah.
And I really want, some of the awarding organizations, they really are struggling with achievement rates. And, sometimes it's as low as 35%.
Yeah.
And we really hope that, with the formative tools, so one of the things that we have seen is most of our clients tend to use our tool for formative, to be able to provide that formative learning. So assessment for learning rather than assessment of learning.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that we'd, very soon be coming up with some nice evidence of how achievement rates are improving. And not only, of course, saving time and saving money. I think it's quite exciting.
Still very early days, isn't it, for generative AI and the evidence from that process? Because I know, obviously AI has been around for a long time and it's been used in, certain areas of assessment. But I think, this year really is the year of people kind of making that exploration, isn't it? The events that I was at the past couple of weeks, people are really waking up to the idea of how do we start embedding these tools. Would you say it's kind of, Kavitha, maybe, is it quite easy for someone to kind of embrace your product and start to using it? Is it an easy journey for them?
I think it really depends on which sector we're talking about, to be honest, because school sector, they are just looking for any tool that is going to make their life easier, so to say, right? So if this is a tool that teachers feel that it's going to benefit them and it's going to improve outcomes, they're going to adopt it. They are less worried about what is behind it. I mean, they are with the data privacy and everything. But that's a different kind of a conversation. But as far as the offering goes, they are looking, and that's how it should be seen, as a tool, as a collaborator, right? So if this is a tool that's going to empower teachers and students, then the adoption is fine in the K-12 sector. When we are looking at institutions, clients beyond the K-12 sector, it's slightly different because, as Raj said, this is a brilliant solution, and anyone looking at it might go, "Oh wow, I wish we had it." But then at an institutional level, digitally, if you're not ready for it, then what do you do? Yeah. And that's how we have kind of adopted that approach of, right, okay, we are going to enable you to transform your infrastructure digitally so that you can adopt the solution, which will then hopefully have on a wider kind of a scale that at an institution level. So yes, so I think it really depends. I think awareness of AI has increased, which is really good. 1 year back, they would look at it, they would go, "Oh, AI tool, we don't want it." But now I think both in every sector, I think they are definitely more aware. They are most of our B2B has been inbound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really like it truly says what it is, because we are able to more boldly say AI assisted assessment / revision model, which 2 years back we wouldn't. We would say a solution that is going to help you with your marking and feedback. I think because the awareness, it's kind of the wave has gone past. So the fearness has not gone completely, but I think there is definitely a more uptake for tools that is going to, help people towards the goal.
Yeah, and Raj, in terms of that, the point there about the kind of concerns, I suppose, the technical concerns, and the kind of, because everyone, at the moment people think about the use cases, they're thinking, okay, that's brilliant, we could do this, and then you start to unlayer, okay, what about data privacy, those kind of things. What are you saying to kind of comfort people or support people in that, going through that kind of questioning journey?
Sorry, I actually missed the crucial bit. What?
No, sorry. No, it's fine. So in terms of that, when people are looking at the privacy concerns around the technology and the worries about what language models are being used, where their data is going, what reassurance are you able to provide to them that AI, generative AI particularly, is a safe option?
Yeah, so we have put lots of guardrails in place within our model, but also to start with, ours is a very proprietary model, and no data is going to train any sort of third-party models and so on. So plus we're now taking, because of some of the size of some of the clients that we are working with, we're now going into making sure that we have some of the certifications in place ourselves, which we didn't have the capability of doing just because of the early stage nature of our own startup. So that we're compliant. We've always been compliant with GDPR and privacy policies, but now we're taking those other steps to be compliant with Cyber Essentials plus ISO and so on and so forth. We're also looking very closely with the EU Act, which has now obviously become law since end of last year. That's quite important for some of our clients. So that's an opportunity for us to make sure that we are very much adhering to some of those policies as well. Everything is, we can restrict data to stay within the UK, but largely it's UK, Europe. So yeah, I think because we're an AI company, I think that's, we've made sure that even, when we were working just with schools, this was something paramount, right, for us to be able to make sure that we are complying with all of the DPI and so on that the schools have to do themselves. So yeah, again, different clients have different requirements. So any sort of very large enterprise clients, we make sure that they are happy with the guardrails that we've got in place. I just wanted to also say, I don't think we mentioned how we actually deploy the models for the clients. So there's two ways in which we work. It could either be just backend API LTI type integration, or it's a full end-to-end solution where we deploy a bespoke white labeled app, cloud-based web app. And then there's the AI doing its own thing in the background. So that becomes the assessment tool. So this model works for more for training providers who've been probably doing their assessments via emails, PDFs, and so on. So just helping them again to move to a proper sort of assessment platform, but enhanced with these AI capabilities. But again, there are some of these larger clients or awarding organizations, they already have learning management systems, they have a tech team in place. So then it's just a case of training the model and then deploying via APIs and so on. So yeah, I think that's also sort of crucial for listeners that it is quite easy to start using, but yes, it depends on where you are within your digital transformation journey.
And I suppose one last question then, in terms of obviously you've got different deployment models there. Is there possibility, because there will be other organizations out there that have assessment solutions, but not in terms of the marketing feedback capabilities as sophisticated as yours? Is there potential that they could plug into your systems?
Absolutely.
Are you happy to have those kind of partnership conversations?
Absolutely. And we've started those conversations already. I'm sure announcements will come in the few months from now. But yes, so partnerships is definitely one way to get to scale faster. And so we are working to have these partnerships in place with LMS providers, both in the apprenticeship sector, but also just outside corporate learning and so on. So I mean, our vision really is that people just need to, there'll be a point when people are using sAInaptic as their sort of default method of knowledge, skills, and behavior assessment, rather than multiple choice questions to automate their marking and feedback. So that's the vision we are working towards, and I think it's we're quite close to achieving that.
Sounds good. Exciting times then. We'll look forward to future announcements. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. I hope that, I'm sure there's plenty for people to take away, and there'll be plenty for people to come ask more questions of you at any time. And I'll put your LinkedIn profiles and your website address, etc., in the show notes so people can see and find you there. But I'm sure you're going to any events soon. Are you attending any upcoming conferences? Which one's going to be?
Yeah, so we're at the AELP in Birmingham next week, the AI Summit.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Hoping to be at ATC as well. So yeah, going to be busy.
Lots coming up. Are you going to the EAA conference in June as well?
Oh yes, the EAA as well. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Hoping to submit something with one of our clients for the awards as well. So
very good, very good. Well,
exciting.
Look forward to seeing you on the stage.
One of our first clients was basically, they're using us to assess talent or recruit, as their sort of screening process as part of their recruitment process. And so it was, okay, yeah, sure, we could do that. Because ultimately it's just, it's their legal team who's sitting and spending hours and hours marking instead of doing their actual jobs.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic use case, and we'll be looking forward to present that at the awards as well.
Excellent. Well, yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the stage, hopefully collecting an award.
Well, fingers crossed.
But well, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Sorry, you could hear the audio there at the end, but you couldn't see them. But thank you. Absolutely fantastic conversation. Really interesting product. Definitely a use case out there for it. And I know from the LinkedIn profile, when I posted it up, there's so much interest in this. And I know from the EAA stuff, when they did a webinar recently about marking and feedback, Pat was saying it was one of the heaviest attended webinars they've done. So there's definitely a lot of interest in this area. So thank you very much to them. We'll be hearing more from them, I'm sure, soon, and the sAInaptic team. So just a reminder then, before I go, that we have the AI Superpowers webinar. That's on today at 4 p.m. GMT. If you miss it, then you can register for the Test Community Network and watch it for free. That's absolutely fine. But it's one really is worth looking at, because there's some amazing tools out there, particularly the agentic stuff that I'll do at the end, which is just mind-blowing as to what the potential is for that. Anyway, right, I'll leave you to it. Thank you very much. Take care, and I'll speak to you next week.